Hey everyone, welcome to Cannabis Technology. With me today is the President and CEO of BioTrackTHC, Patrick Bowe. How are you doing today, Patrick?
I'm doing well, Rob. Thanks for having me on the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's snowing here in Boise, but we're surviving. Patrick, you've got a rich business background. So why don't we kind of start high level with BioTrackTHC. You came on board with BioTrackTHC over 6 years ago. At the time, was BioTrack exclusively providing business solutions, and how many businesses are now using BioTrack?
Sure. So first of all, I'll say that 6 years in tech and even more so 6 years in cannabis feels like much longer. It's been a very long road. When I first came on to BioTrack, it was just the two founders at the time, the inventor of the software system and the business executive. The company actually had its roots, and the company's roots have always been in providing software solutions that enhance businesses that provide medicine to patients while at the same time raising barriers and protecting against diversion. And so the company's actually original product that the company had designed was a biometrics-based pharmaceutical tracking software system. It was intended to combat the pain pill epidemic in the state of Florida at the time. However, as an offshoot of that, a number of Colorado licensees saw the system and said, if you can pivot that software system to tracking cannabis from end to end, or what would later be known as seed to sale, that's something that we would purchase. So the inventor of the software system, TJ, he pivoted in that direction. When I came on board, both products were still were in our portfolio. From the cannabis business product, when I came on board, we had roughly between 12 and 18 licensed cannabis operators in the Colorado market using our software system. And when I came on board, one of the reasons why I came on board was I let them know. I said, you guys have the best product for this, you have the best product in this market that no one's ever heard of. And so, at that point in time, we really started to, develop our sales team, our support team, really enhance our product. And, we knew that eventually technology like this would be needed and adopted at the government level, because essentially what it does is it coordinates and tracks the product through the entire life cycle. And then so in 2013, at the end of 2012, both Washington and Colorado passed adult use cannabis. And then in 2013, the Cole Memo was issued stating that businesses as well as states that implement strong and effective system of controls will be hands-off. And then at that juncture, the opportunity came up in the state of Washington where they issued a competitive bid process for such a software system. They recognized that individual businesses were using technologies such as ours to track from seed to sale, and so they were interested in acquiring a technology to do that at the state level. And then so that's that point in time where we took our previous experience, attempting to track pharmaceuticals at a statewide level, brought it to cannabis, and our knowledge from providing this type of system to industry operators, and deployed that. So now here we are, 6 years later, 6 years from when I started, 5 years from then. We've got 9 now government contracts, and over 2,200 licensed operators from coast to coast using the business platform.
Cool. Let's touch on that, delineating business solutions from government? How did BioTrackTHC kind of evolve, make that evolution from business solutions to include government solutions? Because those are serving two different needs. Can we touch on that a bit?
Sure. I mean, the advantage that we have going in is that, when we were initially, let me start that one over. That's a great question. When we were initially providing our commercial software system to the cannabis operators, compliance with state and local regulations was always a key factor. Keep in mind, back then, before government platforms came onto the stage, these businesses were not explicitly required to use seed-to-sale software systems. They were doing so voluntarily in order to maximize their ability to comply with state and local regulations. So understanding the laws, understanding how the operators' workflows fit into those laws was always a key component for us. And in fact, that's one of the strengths of this team, and one of the assets that we bring to the table, and we bring to the table every time when it comes to a government platform. I know that there are some out there who hold the philosophy that that the two should never mingle, that there's some type of fictitious conflict by having a software system that is applicable to operators and a separate software system that is applicable to government. However, time and time again, for our government customers, we've seen the value of having knowledge from the trenches, from the actual industry operators. How do they actually operate? What are the actual workflows? And that those things are then incorporated into the government system, so that way the data coming out of the government system is more accurate based on what the operators are doing, how the product is moving through the life cycle, and their system is more robust and more informed, and honestly better because of it. And I guess to kind of wrap up that answer, we've always been in a startup mentality. I know that at this juncture, we are the undisputed leader in terms of the sheer number of licensees in the cannabis industry in the U.S. That use our platform. However, we're still relatively small. We're still scrappy. I guess I would say that our biggest asset is our grit and our ability to try to get things done under difficult circumstances. So when we won the contract in Washington, we were able to, we scaled up our product. Our product is already, again, kind of the foundation of it is compliance. Another huge foundation to our software system is security. We've always taken software security very seriously, and we were able to basically take that experience from the industry, take our product and say, how can we scale this up so instead of accounting for maybe 2 grow facilities and a dispensary facility, how can this account for hundreds and hundreds of grow facilities, hundreds and hundreds of dispensary facilities that are all yes, they're separate, but they are all part of the same statewide supply chain. And so then we applied that to our product, and we're able to develop the government platform that we have.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, Patrick, given the fog or the gray area that the cannabis space is in, there's no federal guidance, and different state laws concerning supply chain, transportation, and testing. With all that, what are some of the unintended consequences that can happen?
So that's a great question. So I guess at a high level, because this industry relatively speaking, is still so new. And because it is so fragmented in its approach and in, applying structure to it on a state-by-state basis, a lot of this is through experimentation. So, for example, there was a time where one state took the approach of the operators need to operate the full vertical. So you have to be both grower, you have to be grower, manufacturer, as well as dispensary. Their thought process was if the plants through to the end consumable product all stay within the same entity, that reduces the likelihood of diversion to the black market and inversion of black market product into the licensed operator. A different state took the complete opposite approach. They took more of a segregation of duties approach in the sense that you can grow, you can dispense, you cannot hold the licenses to do both. And so in their minds, if you cultivate, you specialize in cultivation, there's eventually a handoff, a transfer to the dispensary, and then the dispensary, they bring their product inbound from a regulated grower, and then sell it to adult consumers or patients. And so we've been able to kind of see, based on that experience, how some of these differing approaches end up with different consequences, different outcomes. For example, an unintended consequence of requiring the full vertical is you have oftentimes these shotgun weddings between a grower and a dispensary that didn't necessarily make sense. And or if you're trying to track the plants and then you've got all the way to the end product at the point of sale, there can be a big black box between the two where you actually have no idea. It's very difficult to determine how you got from 20,000 plants on one side and X number of sales on the other, compared to, again, segregating them, breaking them up, forcing a handoff. But then you run into other issues where you have in segregation of duties where the two are completely separate. How do you create efficient opportunities for the suppliers and the buyers to exchange product, to transfer product, and so forth. For example, one unintended consequence. This is more of on the how the regulations are structured. There was one state where the 3 license types were producer, processor, and retailer. And in the rules, it stated that only licensed entities could transport product. One of the licenses that was not included were third-party transporters. And so for a while in this market, you have only the licensees themselves could transport, which can end up in really you could end up in really awkward situations where you have a really small farmer who is transporting his or her own product in the back of their personal car, to a processing facility or to the dispensary, as opposed to what most people kind of think of now in the industry, where you have an armored vehicle, whose sole specialty is to transport and protect this high-value product from end to end. So eventually that had to be remedied in the rules. And so we find that in every area in this industry, and across every state. And I know every state is trying to, learn from, not only what has worked well in the states that have already implemented, some type of medical or adult use cannabis program, and as well as trying to, innovate and come up with solutions that, the states that have gone before them have not, did not incorporate into their overall planning of the industry.
Interesting. So Patrick, help me understand enforcement. BioTrackTHC is clearly, you guys are clearly one of the leading providers of government traceability systems, with 8 state-level government tracking contracts going already. In terms of implementing the state's regulatory seed-to-sale traceability system, how does your system actually allow for officials to enforce compliance and provide transparency and accountability? Can you kind of walk through the logistics of that?
Sure. This kind of is on a state-by-state basis, depending on how much of a role or what type of what types of enforcement activities are within the scope of responsibility for the enforcement personnel. But it can range from inventory type and quantity checks, so basically kind of audits, a moment in time. So if according to the government system, which is the system of record, this production facility has, I'm just going to make up some numbers. This production facility is supposed to have 2,000 plants, as well as 100 pounds of harvested plant material that has been dried and cured. They're able to go in and audit the facility. If there are 40,000 plants in the facility, then we have a problem. If there are 10,000 plants in the facility, we have a problem. And same goes for any other type of entity. So you've got inventory audits, to make sure that the quantities of product, the product types, that are allowed by that for that licensee are everything's accounted for, everything's accurate, everything is complete. There can be other types, behavioral types or activity types of enforcement activities or analyzing, kind of what's going on with a particular shop. So, just for example, something that may be red flags, or that's something that would be a red flag for them to investigate further. So, for example, let's say at the point of harvest and cure, or at the point of cure, if you know that you harvested, 5 pounds of wet plant material, and you are recording that the net weight of the dry material is 3 pounds, something's wrong. You either have an incredibly poor drying process, or something else is the matter. Or at the dispensary level, if a reduction in inventory quantities, the majority of the time should be as a result of selling the product to a consumer or patient. There are times where maybe somebody shoplifted, and so you have to make a shoplifting adjustment, or you performed a nightly audit and you just can't account for it. If it happens, occasionally, once or twice, that's one thing. If you, compared to your peers, compared to the other dispensaries around you, let's just say hypothetically, every dispensary within a particular area, enforcement officer's area, usually has, one incident of theft a month, and dispensary ABC has 10 thefts a month. Something is wrong. Either they're either the security of their facility there's something wrong with it. Maybe it's been compromised in some way, or maybe they're intentionally misreporting, and maybe somebody is actually selling off the books and needs to account for their reduction in inventory somehow, and so they record it as a theft. So there are many, information is power, and so having both the data with respect to the state of the business, where are things at in a moment of time, as well as the activity of the business, can be very, very helpful to enforcement officers to either determine if something is out of compliance right then and there, or at least even something that's kind of a red flag. It's not necessarily, it's not exactly, ironclad evidence that something is going awry, but it's something that should at least probably be investigated. So that data empowers the enforcement officer to know where things should be, or at least how things are reported, and then to be able to determine if somebody is or is not out of compliance.
I think I understand, and that makes a lot of sense. I can see the value in that. I'm curious, though, with when we were talking about every state's different, what are some of the hardest things in meeting deployment deadlines, when you get a new state contract, given the diversity?
So one of the most challenging aspects is understanding the scope of the project itself. Again, first and foremost, the software system itself needs to be in compliance with that particular state's rules. We've seen also that a lot of our competitors in the government software space, maybe bite off more than they can chew. So, for example, I can tell you that one of the most demanding times on our engineering team and support team was in the fall of 2015. We were launching 2 states within 1 week of each other in the month of October. We had one state turn on, I believe it was on a Monday, and literally the following Monday we had a second state turn on. And again, keep in mind, each of these government platforms is to one degree or another customized. Because every state does things slightly, at a minimum, slightly differently. Maybe they mirror another state to a large degree, but even those who try to mirror states, they have their own needs, they have their own expectations, and so this is not an out-of-the-box product in the purest sense for anyone. But having a system that has not only been battle tested, but has been deployed in multiple situations with multiple new functionalities, having a broad portfolio of different ways to do things, different functionalities to account for different scenarios. Here's how state A does approach this particular functionality compared to state B. By having all of those things available in our tool set, we're able to quickly create something that is essentially out of the box, but can still basically allow for a little bit of extra functionality. We're definitely proud of our record, being the only software company in the space that has never missed a government deployment deadline. Understanding the requirements of the state prior to even winning the contract is key. I would say the other thing is balancing the opposing concepts of formal structures and processes versus practicality, timeliness. A lot of these states, and don't get me wrong, they should be this way, they require a very formal process to get something approved, whether it's a specific approach, a functionality, a requested change, there's a process, a paper trail. All of the appropriate individuals that are stakeholders need to be notified or have a say. And oftentimes, though, it can be very cumbersome when you have a 90-day deployment deadline for a software project. And so we have to oftentimes balance the need for structure, because the structure is good. Without the structure, you increase the likelihood of chaos. You increase the likelihood that someone's expectations will not be met. Something gets miscommunicated. Something gets forgotten in the mix, and the final product that you deploy is missing a very, very critical nut and bolt. But because we still kind of operate in very much in a startup mentality, and because oftentimes these regulators are put in a position to, okay, the law's been passed, the regulations have been set, we need product on the shelves to be made available to patients as soon as humanly possible. And so these timelines are extremely tight. And so sometimes we have to help a government customer maybe not break process, but definitely be more flexible so that we can be more practical and say, listen, our job is just to get it done, get it across the finish line. We'll go through whatever formal approval process we need to, but for everyone's sake, for our government clients' sake, for the industry's sake, for our own sake, if we're going to hit this deadline, we're going to go ahead and get working on this, or we're going to go this direction, we're going to implement this functionality, this hot fix, what have you, and just get it done regardless of what the formal process is supposed to be. I would say that's definitely one of the most challenging aspects is balancing that. We don't want to be flying by the seat of our pants, at all times, because things will then always break, but we can't focus so much on the following procedure that the procedure itself delays the project.
Understood. And that's a great segue to my last question. BioTrackTHC, you've got an expansive portfolio, and just listening to you talk and the research I've done, it's pretty obvious. I'm curious, what can we see in terms of launch of any new solutions in 2018? What does the future look like for the company, and also what does it look like industry-wise? As prohibition becomes kind of a sunset obstacle slowly, what do things look like?
Sure. So with respect to the, let me try that one again. My mouth is running faster than my brain. With respect to the launch of new solutions, I do want to say this. One of the things that we as BioTrack are really trying to focus on this next year, in 2018, is to get back to basics. It has been extremely challenging over the last few years because, as we've stated earlier in the podcast, this industry is incredibly fragmented. What one state does is not the same thing as what another state does. There's no cohesive approach. There's not a whole lot in common across state lines, when it comes to the regulations and the structures. And so, because we are one of the oldest seed-to-sale companies in this space, we've been able to make our product more generalizable and therefore more applicable in a majority of circumstances. With respect to new products, what I would say is that our focus is on improving the existing core product, do what we do best, and allow for the system to be compatible with other software systems that do not, that are not explicitly in seed to sale. We don't have expertise in a lot of other areas, which is fine. Let somebody else create a fantastic new app that, by linking to seed to sale, provides incredible value to our joint customer, which at the end of the day is the cannabis operator, the licensee, the cultivator, the processor, the dispensary. And so that's really going to be what our focus is going to be for 2018, is getting back to basics and improving our core product and its interoperability with other products, so that way our customers can have a more holistic and seamless experience with all of the software systems that they utilize to run their businesses and to be successful. I will say that we are working on, a couple of different projects, none of which I, really am able to kind of go into at this time. But at a high level, we are taking this opportunity in 2018 to aggregate and compile all of the feedback we've received from our customer base over the last year or two across all the states, to better inform our product, both product lines, and to make it even better at what it does best.
Understood. Great conversation, Patrick. I really appreciate the value of the services you guys provide and the industry knowledge. So thanks so much. To tell our viewers who want to learn more about you and the value of BioTrackTHC, where would you send them?
Well, I would say I don't know if anybody would get a whole lot of value reading about me, but no, our team our team is incredible. I mean, the sheer amount of hard work, dedication, the grit that they have, and the dedication they have to see our customers successful, that to me is what I think people would definitely find interesting. To learn more about BioTrack, the best resource is our website, biotrack.com, BioTrack.com. From there you can learn about both our commercial platform for licensed cannabis operators, as well as our government platform for the government regulators overseeing them.
Excellent. Really appreciate it, Patrick. Have a fantastic day, okay?
Thank you so much, Rob. You too. Take care.
That's it, everyone. See you next time.